I've got a two-part question for y'all. The first part is, if you could pass any constitutional amendment, what kind of amendment do you think would do the most good? And the second part is, in your opinion, when would it be appropriate, or how bad would it have to get for a convention of the states to pass a constitutional amendment?
Well, those are great questions, and they're closely intertwined. I would say, and I'm going to cheat a little bit and say it's a tie between two, which is, number one, a term limits amendment, and I am a strong defender of term limits. I am the author of a term limits amendment that would limit every senator to 2 terms, limit every House member to 3 terms. It is amazing, the divide. If you look at it, the overwhelming majority of Americans support term limits, the overwhelming majority of Republicans, the overwhelming majority of independents, even the overwhelming majority of Democrats support term limits. The one group that doesn't support term limits is career politicians in Washington. And that's true on both sides. All the Democrats in the Senate, I can't get a single Democrat in the Senate to support term limits. And I can't get any of the Republicans who've been there a long time to support it. So it is a clear divide. The second amendment that I would also put right side by side with that is a balanced budget amendment. 48 of the 50 states have a balanced budget amendment. I think those 2 amendments would be the 2 most important structural amendments for shrinking the power of the federal government. On the question of a convention of the states, so the Constitution provides 2 different ways of amending the Constitution. One, through amendments proposed by Congress, ratified by the states. 2, through amendments that come out of a convention of the states, called for by the states to propose amendments. In my view, if Congress continues stiff-arming the people on term limits and a balanced budget amendment, I think there is more and more growing momentum for a convention of the states. And I think we are likely to either A, see a convention of the states, or B, if it gets very, very close, to finally have Congress blink because they're afraid of a convention of the states and propose those amendments to ratifications. Either one of those would be a better outcome than where we are now.
The amendment that I would pass actually has to do with your job, Senator. I would overturn the 17th Amendment. I would pass an amendment to overrule the 17th Amendment, which provided for the
So you want to bring back prohibition?
I want to bring back prohibition. No, direct election of okay. I got really nervous.
I'm kidding. You were right.
Gosh.
I'm just messing with you.
I thought, oh no, did I? So the 17th Amendment provides for the direct election of senators. Probably not going to be a very popular issue to run on, to say we don't want the people to directly elect their senators. But I think it's really important because when you got rid of the states electing the senators, the state houses, and instead gave it to the people, you basically destroyed any power that the states had in the national government. It went away. I remember I got to speak to Antonin Scalia as a student. We went up to the Supreme Court, and he said states' rights completely went out the window with the 17th Amendment. And so if you feel that right now we have an increasingly overbearing, autocratic sort of federal government, if you feel that now the traditional structures of America are going away, and you feel that we're being governed by Los Angeles and New York and San Francisco and D.C. most of all, then I think it's really important as a structural matter to bring back some role for the states so that my state of Tennessee, Texas, Florida, ordinary states can come in and say...
Don't forget Alabama.
Oh, are we in Alabama right now? A sensible state like Alabama. I mean, you could name a handful of others, really sensible states can go in and say, no, Joe Biden, no Washington, D.C., no federal bureaucrats, we're not going to put up with that. I think as a structural matter, we've got to do it. And Senator, I would say, don't worry. I think Texas is still going to be sending you to Washington, D.C.
So, and look, I think you make a very good point, Michael, and I would say as an historical matter and theoretical matter, I think what you're saying is very powerful, that the 17th Amendment, it used to be senators were selected by state legislatures. When state legislatures selected senators, it meant that senators came there beholden to those state legislatures, and they were not very eager to take away power from the state legislatures because they're the ones that gave them the job and could take it away from them. When we moved to direct election of senators, it weakened that very important structural limitation on federal power, that very important element of federalism. The reason I haven't focused on repealing the 17th Amendment is that we live in the realm of the politically feasible.
Yeah.
And as a practical matter, I think it is next to impossible to convince anyone to give up the franchise. That once people have the ability to vote on something, they're not going to likely choose to give up that ability to vote on it, which is why, as a theoretical matter, you might be right in the abstract, but I think term limits and balanced budget are actually achievable and can get done, whereas repealing the 17th Amendment, that's never going to happen.
Bit of a pipe dream. Yep, I think you're right. I agree.